Oh, good. What else is out? Yeah, come on now.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for teaching.
You're very welcome.
I'm a bit nervous about asking. It's not quite a question, but I guess I've had times, I've had glimpses where it feels like I'm awake.
Yeah.
And periods where it's happened, quite regularly.
Yeah.
And in the past year, I've had a build-up of a whole range of things where I've contracted and got tighter and tighter to the point where I'm really tight now. Yeah. And there's quite a few things which feels like I'm just wondering how I want to be awake because I've had some touches of it.
Of course, it makes it very alluring, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to remember past times and how that felt and what were the circumstances around that. And and so I then wonder what to do with these painful situations.
Good question.
Yeah.
Start to meet them and face them and see the truth of them. See, because this is, as I earlier said, one of the most important things when you're in this kind of dilemma, which many, many, many people find themselves in, especially now. Everything was clear, a month ago or last year or whatever, and then now it's the aperture seems to have closed down again. And to really see how is it that this body-mind unenlightens itself? Or what am I avoiding? What am I running from? What is it that I don't want to deal with? And that can be internally and or externally. You see, because sometimes without even knowing it, one can start to use that freedom that's realized in the truth of our being as the mind it tends to use it as a place either to hole up, free, wonderful. Freedom is free no matter what's happening. And that is true, no matter what's happening. But it's not just about freedom, it's also about truth. And so sometimes, many times, unconsciously, the mind starts to try to have that freedom as sort of a point of refuge. Right? So that I do not have to actually look at something that I'm afraid to look at, or deal with something that's uncomfortable or not easy for me to deal with. I will be in this refuge, and of course, it just doesn't work that way. No. Sooner or later, that thing that we avoid will pull consciousness back to itself. And of course, then the natural question is, well, I don't really want to be here where it's all contracted and messy. I want to be where it's uncontracted and wonderful. And sure, I mean, you've heard and listened, and there's certain ways to turn consciousness back to itself and realize all that. But also to start to look at what is it that I'm avoiding? What is it that I don't want to deal with? Because those things are what pull consciousness back. It pulls consciousness back because life wants truth. Everything seeks truth, not only every being, but every situation. So any situation in which truth is not functioning pulls consciousness to the situation. Just like you're drawn to the truth of your nature, every situation is actually pulling the truth towards itself as well. You get the sense?
Yes, I do.
It's sort of a very interesting equation when we stop avoiding anything or any part of life in any way. It's often sort of magical how staying in the presence of our being magically, effortlessly happens. And when we continue to not deal with life itself as it is, then we're continually being pulled out. Seemingly pulled out, right? We can't actually be pulled out, but it's almost like the veil seems to drop back.
So the presence of our being with the situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
The truth, what's the truth of it?
Yeah.
Sometimes this is what I say to people. I say, what do you really know about it that you really don't want to know? You see that kind of thing?
Because I know when there's a few things. When they started to be a problem, there was a way out, or there seemingly was the way to go, but fear pulled me back.
That's it.
And now I'm at the point where to even think about it, all I've got is this tight, constrictive pattern.
Right.
And I guess I'm looking for how, to move in to finding the way through it.
Act on what you know to be true.
Yeah.
Act on it. It may give rise to fear. It may not. But either way, act on it anyway. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just act on what you know really to be true in your heart.
Yeah.
Because often when we move to what's true, it will throw us into certain insecurities, right? Because we know, gosh, if I move that way, I don't know what will happen. I don't know how it will work out. I don't know how the people involved, if there are anybody involved, but I don't know how they will react to it. This vast unknown happens, right? That's when we start simply acting and expressing what we see to be true. We are we're throwing ourselves into a situation that we have no ability to know how it will end up. That's what's frightening to the egoic mind, isn't it? I want to know, I want to have guarantees, but
there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee, and when you start with the truth and you move from the truth and in the truth, the only guarantee is you will end up with the truth. That's guaranteed. Act from the truth, in the truth, move with the truth, and the worst that can happen is you end up with truth. But how that's going to look, we can't know.
Yeah. So that takes some perseverance, I take, in terms of...
Yeah. At times it takes a bit of courage.
Yeah.
Because even if when you realize the presence of being, there's still a human structure, right? And it may that's really obvious to move this way or to open this area up but the human vehicle may have a hesitation, may have fear about it. And that's part of the gap closing is by just moving anyway. Even the human part of you starts to realize, actually, moving from the truth and in the truth is always the safest way to go.
Yep. Always.
Yeah. Moving in illusion pretends to be safe, like, oh, don't do that. Don't do the truth thing, because it'll really, you don't know what'll happen. But illusion always ends up hurting. That's guaranteed too.
Yep. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yep, it does.
None of us get away with denial at all. There's no such thing as successful hiding or successful denial. There's always a price to be paid. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.